Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coaching Corner again. My name is Carrie Cravallo, and I'm here with Kavita Ahuja. And we're so excited to be here today to talk about values. Just a reminder that this series of Coaching Corners is part of the Next Group's development for all of the people out there thinking about making transitions in their lives. So, really grateful for Next Group for bringing us on board to be part of this initiative. And we're talking about values today, but we certainly can talk about any and all topics. So if there's a challenge, a struggle, or really anything that you're just thinking about right now and you'd love some advice, please feel free to submit that through the Next Group form and we'll be sure to cover it.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, Kavita, we've talked about our strengths, we've talked about our passions. Now we're talking
Yes.
about values today. So I wanted to have you tee it up here. Tell me why values are so important
Yeah.
and how they fit in with kind of the coaching work that you do.
Yes. Thanks. Thanks, Carrie. It's great to be here with you again. And yeah, I think thanks for asking. I think it's really important. And as you said, um, in the way I approach things with my clients is we really go through that kind of the three-step process is discovering your strengths, the passions, and then the third thing is the values. And that really, when we look at those things together, then it kind of leads up to, what is your reason for being? And that really, when you look at these things and they overlap, it's interesting. But going back
Mhm.
to values, I think that understanding or knowing what you value really is kind of like having a compass which guides you,
Mhm.
right? And it's really compass and it guides you as to what direction you want to live your life and how you want to live your life, right? And it helps you to kind of to make decisions, to move forward, and to understand like where you want to be, who you want to work with, what kind of company you want to work with, all of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I would say that it's really important to recognize what your values are at this stage in your life because
Mhm.
values can change in different stages of our life. For an example, maybe when we were younger, um, my dog is just in the back here. I don't know if you can
Ah,
see it. She just
hello.
so when you're younger, your values might have been or maybe still are to climb up the corporate ladder or competition or career or education or like raising kids and
Mhm.
so maybe there's little time for pursuing your own passions or spirituality or giving back to the community or whatever it may be. But as perhaps as you go older, these values may change, and where you might
Mhm.
value, more giving back to your community or
Mhm.
um, health, like you know what I mean. So, like, it's
Yeah.
so important to identify what are my changing values, and they're not good or bad. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
stages of life, right? And if we can identify what they are, and if they're so important to us, then we really need to design our life
Mhm.
around those values. By that I mean, where are we working? Who are we serving?
Mhm.
What is if I'm looking to start in a new work environment, is that work environment supporting
Mhm.
my values at this moment? And if not,
Mhm.
if they don't align, then we're just not going to be happy, right?
Mhm.
And often people don't think about that. They just kind of go in blindly and they don't really delve into what is this company's value system? What do they stand for?
Mhm.
So that's kind of a brief overview of why I think and I see it's so important to cultivate your values. Firstly, understand them and then cultivate them and then reflect them in your life.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so so I feel like I spoke on and on, but tell
Mhm.
me about your perspective on this and how maybe with your clients, how
Mhm.
do you deal with or does this topic come up?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, I was really resonating with where you said, Kavita, like values at this point in your life. And
Mhm.
also, there's no right, wrong. And I think that's super powerful. And that comes up all the time with my clients. So, the clients I typically work with are high achieving professional moms. So, they
Mhm.
had a phase in their career where they were really dedicated to their professional space. And then they had children And then it's like there's this whole new chapter to be written. And
Yes.
so the value that you might have before children, it could be very different from the value that you have after. And
Sure.
I have found that, there are those women out there who, they're on their maternity leave and they're like, no, I'm definitely going to continue in my career. I want to become that VP, like no question. And then
Sure.
they go back to work and they start doing that. And then they're like, wait a second, this isn't actually me. I need to like reevaluate my values. I need to reevaluate how this all fits in.
Yes.
And then I've talked with people who are the quite opposite. They're like, I'm definitely going to take some time to be a full time parent. I've had the gas pedal on my career, and I really need to invest in my children in this new, unique way. And then they do that, and they're like, oh my gosh, I could be a better mother if I was at the workplace during the day. And so I think the point is like we think we know, and then we get in action, and it could change too. So what
Yes.
is the value at this point in time? And being graceful with yourself and giving yourself permission to know that there is no right wrong, and what
Yeah.
someone else might be doing isn't what you have to be doing. I
Exactly.
think that that's super powerful. um, the other thing that I find, I think sometimes when people think about values, they define it differently for themselves. Like I've had people say, well, my value is being outside in the winter. Like I just love going skiing and hiking and snowshoeing and all that stuff. Like that's a value. I'm going to prioritize it. And I said, okay, that's awesome. That's an activity that you really, really love to do. But what's the value under that is the what
Right.
you get from that activity. Like the
Right.
value there is adventure or freedom or
Mm, mm,
energy. Like
mm.
that's the value that you get from it.
I love
Um,
that. I love that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because that's one of the questions I get, and I think that's really important. What you just said is like, how do you even determine what your values are? Like, there's
Yeah.
so many out there. Like, how do you do it? So, um, some of the questions that I would recommend, or if you're wondering that, how do you find your
Yeah.
values? Is like one of the questions is like, what kind of contribution or impact do you want to make
Hmm.
right now? Um, the other one would be, who do you want to serve and why?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, the other question would be, like, why did you choose your current work or your previous line of work? What made you choose that? Right.
Hmm.
And then the fourth one would be, how does your current work or the work that you're looking to move into align? And how does a mission align with your values? Right. And
Hmm.
so when you ask these questions, and I think you can narrow it down as to,
Yeah.
this is a kind of contribution. I want to help people, so my value is service. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
so just looking at those three the four
Hmm.
questions that I think are really
Hmm.
valuable.
Yeah.
And I think you had mentioned that as we were talking, you had said that there was a three-step kind of process that you have learned,
Oh,
and maybe you want to
yeah.
share that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the small groups that I run right now in my coaching practice is built upon these 10 practices of personal leadership from
Hmm.
a book called The Inner Edge by Joel J. And so there's a whole chapter on values. And so there's a three-step process that I walk people through. The first is mining for your values. That's
Hmm.
like, all right, what could all the possible options be? Mining for your values. Then defining them, like really
Mm.
making um, a statement, a definition for you, right?
Right.
Because a value of adventure for me could mean something totally different than what adventure means for you, as an
Right.
example. So mining, defining, and then refining. And that's where you continue to narrow it down and really come up with like those top 3 to 4 values
Yeah.
from which you then choose to move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
And I think as you move forward, it's like the alignment. I think I heard you
Yes.
use that word is so key because when you
Yeah.
have that clarity of what your values are, then you can so see like when am I in integrity with the values and when am I out of integrity with
Yes.
the values. And there's no like make wrong. Oops, okay, I'm out of integrity. Okay, now you know you to get back on track.
Yeah. That's so important. I love that integrity piece. But and one thing you just mentioned, which triggered something, is
Mhm.
choosing. Like it's important to choose maybe your top, 3, 4, 5
Mm.
values.
Yeah.
And one of the things I also talk about and help my clients with is choosing even one, the main important one that's
Mm,
kind of been a
mhm,
through line throughout your life. And how do we retell our story from a
mm,
lens of our value versus lens of chronology, like, "Oh, I did this and I did this,"
mm.
versus, "I valued this throughout my career and I still value it." So retelling your story
Yes.
based on a value, I just remembered that, and I think that's important
Yeah.
thing
I
to because it makes you more confident when you anchor your story on a value that you hold dear,
Totally.
right?
That is such a good technique to use for anyone who's like going through a job search process.
Yes, yes.
We often get that question. We're like, walk me through your resume. And so an invitation for anyone listening is to say, before you start walking through your resume, just actually have like a upfront like intro, just saying like the common themes or values that I really hold on to throughout my
Mhm.
entire career include X, Y, and Z.
Yes,
Like
and
from that place.
you'll see this in my
y-
history and my examples, and that
Yeah.
also it also helps because if there's a gap,
Yes.
if there's like you're coming back into the workforce, maybe you were laid off and there's been some time, then you don't need to really
Hmm.
explain that gap away. You can just say, I
Hmm.
was working on the value of whatever it is,
Hmm.
and it's a through line in my life, and it's a really very powerful exercise to do. You know, maybe we can do this in one of our if we have a workshop coming up, we can workshop that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's that was something I learned that was very powerful that I've
Yeah.
gone through with some of my clients. So I think these are some
Mhm.
great tips that we've come through.
I think
And
so. Yeah.
yeah,
I love
and
it.
yeah, it's important. And as coaches, we're here to support you of helping to identify what your
Mhm,
values are and
mhm,
helping you apply them as you're looking to move on in your career and your life. So reach out to either myself or Carrie.
mhm,
If you wanted us to dive deeper into any of these topics, we're happy to, have a complimentary call with you to
mhm.
dive deep into these different topics. And again, as Carrie said, any other topic that you're interested in learning about, just shoot us some information on what you would like to learn about, and we can talk about that
Mhm.
uh, in future sessions. So that was great. Thanks so
Yeah,
much,
thanks,
Carrie.
Kavita. Great being with you.
Take care.